Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and today I'll be ranking the difficulty of healer mage tower challenges. Now, keep in mind, I've done every single healer challenge with the exception of Discipline Priest, because Discipline Priest has to do a completely different challenge that is more associated with DPS classes, so I didn't feel it was appropriate to include this in this video, so keep that in mind. Second of all, Blizzard has nerfed the mage tower challenge, and they nerfed the arcane blitz for all of the healers basically, and they also specifically targeted restoration shamans and holy priests. The fact that they nerfed resto shaman more than holy priest is absolutely laughable, which I'll talk about later in the video, but keep in mind that 4 of the 5 classes that you're going to see in this video were done pre-nerf, so there is a chance that the ranking would change a little bit based on the nerfs, so keep that in mind. And my initial idea for the video was to go through the different stages of the Mage Tower challenge and rank each healer based on how good they are for each stage, but I felt that's going to take a bit too long. So there's definitely a big difference between certain healing classes when approaching this challenge. For example, this was my reaction when I finally completed the Holy Priest Mage Tower challenge. When you compare it to my reaction when I finally completed it on my Holy Paladin, there is definitely a big difference between certain healers when trying to get that transmog. Again, we're gonna start off straight away with the overall ranking, so let's go and get started. So this is my tier list for the healers right now. We're gonna go from easiest, so that's going to be S tier, and the hardest is going to be D tier. And the easiest healer based on all of the stages combined, I have to say that it's going to be Holy Paladin. Now, I will be showing at the end of the video the amount of tries it took me to get each Mage Tower challenge and things like that, just to have a better idea of how long or what time investment you're going to have. But Holy Paladin was one of the healers that I actually done in the first try. When we go to stage 1, I don't actually believe Holy Paladin is the best healer for stage 1. They do have a lot of CC. Majority of the healers are going to have around 3 abilities for CC based on the talent choices. You're going to have Hodge, you're going to have Turn Evil, and you're going to have Blinding Light. So there is enough CC for Holy Paladin's arsenal to handle phase 1, but I think the issue with phase 1 or stage 1 for Holy Paladin is the fact that you still have to micromanage your throughput, healer throughput cooldowns, and if you don't do that, you might run into trouble. You also have to keep in mind that Holy Paladin is one of those classes that is not going to be taking additional damage from Arcane Blitz, which is a big factor in phase 1. And one of the things that makes Holy Paladin really strong in the Mage Tower is their high base damage. It almost feels like Holy Paladin should be doing the Discipline Priest challenge because of how much damage they can do, and that's why I placed Holy Paladin in S tier, or the easiest healer, because of how much damage they can do. So when we step away from stage 1 and we go to stage 3, stage 3 is all about DPS, and a lot of the times melee healers might not be favorable because of the eyes, and if you get close to them, they're gonna do AoE. But Holy Paladin has enough range DPS from Judgment, Holy Shock to Hammer of Wrath if you get Wings proc to handle this phase so easily, and you have Bubble if you want to just blast through all of them. So coupled with the fact that they can do so much damage, they can blast through stage 3 and they go into stage 5, which is healing NPCs. Now, I don't think Holy Paladin is the strongest here, but it's not the weakest either. You have things like Lay of Hands, and you can store up holy power by using heals on your beacon targets before the NPCs or the souls are arriving, and then use your holy power for World of Glory. And all of a sudden, this kind of healing felt pretty easy, and it didn't really cause a lot of trouble as long as you would pool up your holy power before the souls arrive. And then the last boss stage, a lot of people will say that, hey, melee healers are gonna have a hard time because they can't stand close to the boss, but I actually felt that Holy Paladin, because of the fact they have so many ranged DPS abilities, Judgment, Holy Shock, you can use things like Wings, and during Wings you're gonna have Hammer of Wrath, which is going to do a lot of DPS. You can place Consecrate underneath the boss, you can stay in range and just hammer away with your Judgment, Holy Shocks, and after your Wings expire, you can use Holy Avenger, and your heals are going to proc Wings through Awakening, which in turn is going to give you more Hammer of Wrath procs again, and then you have Bubble if things get really out of hand. And I felt that Holy Paladin, maybe not the strongest for stage 1, maybe not the strongest for stage 5, but the fact that their base damage is so high, and you have things like a strong immunities, makes Holy Paladin one of the best choices if you want to get your Mage Tower skin or appearance straight away. Now let's go to the rest of the ranking, and honestly the next couple of healers are going to be in the A tier because I couldn't really differentiate between them, because a lot of them are really good at stage 1 but really bad at the last stage and things like that. So I'm going to be placing Restoration Druid in A tier. And the reason I'm placing Resto Druid here is because their stage 1 is probably the easiest out of all of the healers combined. You'll notice that a lot of other healers have around 3 CC abilities, while Resto Druid has 4. You can, through talents, get Bash through Mighty Bash talent. You can get Typhoon through Balance Affinity. You can Cyclone. You can spam Cyclone until the ores kick in. And you also have Vortex. And Vortex is not to be diminished because you can use Vortex when you're fixated and run away. Or you can use Vortex to prevent the Arbalist from jumping and casting Mana Sting. So there's a lot of different combinations that you can do in phase 1. Honestly, the first time I did Resto Druid, I messed up phase 1 so much, but I was still able to do it because they have so many buttons to deal with different types of situations. So when we go to stage 3, which is the DPS stage, I don't think Resto Druid is all that great. I had to actually spec into Heart of the Wild and Feral Affinity. I felt a lot more comfortable with Feral Affinity. I think it provided more damage, and all of a sudden the challenge was a lot easier. So I don't think Resto Druid is the best in stage 3, but it's also not the worst. You might have to swap away a couple of talents, and you can still manage it quite easily. Now when we go to stage 5, I think Resto Druid is probably the second worst healer here. And I say this because if you come unprepared in this stage, you're probably going to have a really bad time. But if you kind of plan out your cooldowns, you'll notice the Resto Druid is really not that bad. As long as you have things like Swiftment for your souls, if you have Nature Swiftness into Regrowth, and Tranquility is actually going to give you a free wave. It's going to heal up everyone in one go. So all of a sudden, you might even spec into things like Tree of Life or Flourish, and that's going to help you with a second wave. So there is a lot of ways to deal with this stage as Resto Druid. It is harder and it requires more planning than other healers, but it's very, very manageable. And the last stage for Resto Druid was okay. Again, I don't think it was the best healer for the last stage. I think the base damage was decent. You are ranged. You can't put Moonfire, Sunfire. You can go and cast Rats and things like that. You can't spec into Heart of the Wild and maybe go into Boomkin Affinity and cast your Star Surges. So there's a lot of ways to optimize this. On top of the fact that I feel hot classes are they're very helpful during the stage when the boss jumps on you and you are really low HP because you're dealing with a debuff and need to run away through the green stuff. The hots are gonna equalize or help you with your HP so you don't die. And I felt that a lot of the classes that had hots made that transition a lot easier. So I don't think Resto Druid is the best. The fact that Resto Druid is in the A tier is mainly because their stage 1 is so manageable and it's such a nice stage for Druid, especially if you mess up and you can progress stage 1 and then get better with stage 3, stage 5 and the final stage. So now the next healer is also going to be in the A tier because I couldn't really differentiate between them, and that is going to be Mistweaver Monk. The reason I place Mistweaver Monk here is because I think their base HPS is really, really high. The fact that you can cast Essence Font on the move feels really, really nice. And in stage 1, I don't think you're going to have many problems if you know what you're doing. You still have those 3 CC abilities that a lot of other classes tend to have in terms of the number of CC abilities. You have your Ring of Peace, you have Leg Sweep, and you have Paralyze. Now, as long as you have Leg Sweep for wave 4, everything's going to be okay. And if you get fixated, you have enough HPS to heal through it, as long as it's not double fixate. But if you don't want to heal through it, you have a lot of mobility with Chi Torpedo. If Chi Torpedo is not enough, you can use a teleporter. So Mistweaver phase 1 has high HPS, which is probably the main aspect that makes you successful. On top of the fact having enough CC, you don't have extra damage from Arcane Blitz as a Mistweaver either, so that's pretty good. So you don't have to worry about the mages all that much. High HPS, good CC, really good mobility, a very good stage 1. Now stage 3 is when Mistweaver kind of falls down to me because I think they might have the lowest base damage, or at least it felt for me like they have the lowest base damage. You have to deal with Flickering Eyes. I've been told that you can use Spinning Crane Kick and you don't get hit by the AoE or the splash AoE. So that's something that you can optimize. But I felt that stage 3 was pretty rough and you have to play towards your Touch of Death. If you misuse your Touch of Death, you're gonna have a really hard time and you probably have to save Bloodlust or Drums for the end of stage 3. Or if you use your Touch of Death properly, you're gonna have an easier time. But definitely base damage for Mistweaver, probably the biggest issue that you're going to struggle with this Mage Tower challenge. Now when we go to stage 5, you have to heal the NPCs. I felt that Mistweaver was very easy because you have on-demand strong single target healing through Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and Vivify, and you can pretty much do that for all of the phases. You can apply Essence Font Hot on NPCs if you want to double proc your mastery on your next heals. Revival could possibly top everyone up if it crits. So there's a lot of ways to deal with stage 5, and Mistweaver, definitely no issues here. Now the hardest part of Mistweaver is going to be the last boss, and that is because you don't have a lot of DPS. And basically what you have to do, unlike Holy Paladin, who's also a melee healer, Holy Paladin has a lot of ranged DPS abilities that do a lot of damage. Mistweaver does not. You basically have crackling Jade Lightning when you're staying in range, and that's not going to do a whole lot. So the way to play it, you have to focus at the very start of the challenge, do as much damage as possible, pop drums, pop DPS potion, and then when you're standing at range, you have to wait for the boss to jump to you, and then you have to use some sort of DPS ability like Rising Sun Kick. With Rising Mist, it's going to extend your HOTS as well and do a good amount of damage. Then I also learned that you can use Ring of Peace to kind of block the boss from jumping towards you, which is going to save a lot of space. So you can optimize your Mistweaver in such a way that you're going to prolong the final stage, but DPS is definitely going to be an issue, and you have to play towards that touch of death at the very end. There's a high chance that everything's going to be covered up, and you have to rely on a touch of death to finish off the boss. Now the next healer, I really struggle in terms of where to place it, because I was thinking about placing it in A tier, like the lowest of the A tier, or B tier. And I feel that after the nerfs, and I'm kind of guessing here, that it's probably going to be somewhere in the A tier, just below Druid and Mistweaver, possibly B tier. So I'm just basically assuming that the nerfs are going to make the Resto Shaman challenge a lot easier, so I'm going to place it low A tier for the time being. And the main reason for this is because Stage 1, and I know what Blizzard was thinking. In their mind, they were like, okay, Holy Priest or Priest and Resto Shaman can purge the Mage Arcane buff or Arcane Blitz buff that is stacking up and increasing the damage of the Arcane Blitz over and over again. They can purge it. So we're gonna make sure that that Arcane Blitz is gonna do like way more damage because they have these kind of toolkits. But in hindsight, I think it has made Stage 1 a lot less forgiving for Shaman and Holy Priest because of this change. All of a sudden, you have to make sure to purge it, you have to make sure to interrupt it, and in Stage 4, or Wave 4, you have to make sure you have Capacitor Totem, because if you cannot interrupt the double knife dance, you're gonna have a really hard time. So, even though I know what Blizzard was thinking in terms of making Arcane Blitz a lot more powerful or a lot more annoying for Shamans because of the toolkit, it has made the challenge a lot more painful and a lot less forgiving when you compare it to all other healers, because for example, you can play a Holy Paladin and all you need 1 CC ability on a Mage, and the Mage is gonna drop its stacks. So you don't even care about the Mages at all, while for Resto Shaman and Holy Priest, they're number 1 priority. So even though Resto Shaman struggled with Stage 1 a lot, Stage 3 was not too bad. Again, your ranged type of healer, your base damage is pretty okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but at the end of Stage 3, you can use your Earth Elemental, and your Earth Elemental is gonna tank everything, and you can just sit back and just Flame Shock, Lava Burst, and it's all going to be okay. You don't... Again, you do have Heroism, Bloodlust if you want to use it, and that's going to be the strongest form of that. So I don't think Resto Shaman is going to struggle with Stage 3 too much. I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it's the worst either, and I think you're going to have a decent time. Now, Stage 5 is Resto Shaman Kingdom. This is going to be insane. The first time I did Resto Shaman Stage 5, I thought it was bugged, because literally any heal would top everyone up, and that's probably because of how their mastery works. On top of the fact that if you time your Cloudburst in such a way, Cloudburst is going to top everyone up. You can use things like Healing Tide Totem, you can use Ascendance. Resto Shaman, Stage 5 is non-existent. It is by far the best healer for Stage 5 by a mile. There is no way you're going to struggle with this. Like I told you at the start, I thought initially that stage was actually bugged because how easy it was for Resto Shaman. Now the final stage for Resto Shaman, again, not the best, not the worst. You're still a range healer, you're still applying Lava Burst, you're still applying, you know, Flame Shock Lava Burst combo. You can use Bloodlust Heroism, it's gonna increase your DPS. You just have to bait the debuffs properly in terms of, like, you know, lower your HP and run away from the green stuff. There's nothing really special about this. On my first try, I think I did the Resto Shaman in the second try. I just ran out of space at the very end, but if you focus the DPS a little bit more, you should not have too much trouble with the final stage. So the reason why Shaman is low A tier, possibly B tier, is mainly because of their Stage 1 performance and the fact that Blizzard decided to make Arcane Blitz a lot more painful. So now we go to the last hero. Don't look at Discipline Priest. Discipline Priest is doing a completely different challenge. I heard it's not too bad. It just takes a long time, like 12-14 minutes, so it's really, really boring. But Holy Priest. Now, I don't want to be too negative on Blizzard. I don't want to be too negative on the changes, but there needs to be a tier of its own for Holy Priest. Holy Priest is just out of its mind difficult. And before we're going to go into reasons why, I'm just going to showcase the amount of tries it took me to do each challenge. I actually did Holy Paladin on the first go. It took me 3 tries to do Resto Druid, but that's not indicative of the difficulty because I actually failed the last stage on Resto Druid when I swiftmanned myself before the debuff ran out and all the NPCs died. So that's user error. I'm plebbing out. I did Mistweaver in 2 goes. I did Resto Shaman in 2 goes as well. So majority of my healers either take 1 or 2 tries to get it, because I know the tactics inside out. Holy Priest took me, I don't even know, 4-6 hours, like 40 plus tries to actually get it done. So 95% of my time when doing the Mage Tower challenge was spent on Holy Priest. This is why when you look at the nerfs that happened to Mage Tower and you look at the fact that, hey, Blizzard has nerfed Resto Shaman challenge more than Holy Priest, it is absolutely laughable. Blizzard, I'm not sure if they're even testing this or they're getting the right feedback, because this is just a joke. So when we go to stage 1 for Holy Priest, first of all, Holy Priest healing is absolutely terrible. They have by far the lowest base healing out of all the classes, because Shadowlands Holy Priest is based on the fact that you have flash concentration, and it really shows. You cannot use this flash concentration legendary in the Mage Tower, and all of a sudden your flash heal and most of your healing abilities literally just tickle. They do so little healing when compared to all the other healers, and the only heals that actually do anything are your Holy Word spells, Serenity and Sanctify. And Sanctify requires people to be grouped up, and Granny is off by her own all the way to the end of the room, and you have to grip her, which means you're wasting a GCD. And you are GCD starved, because Holy Priest is going to be taking extra damage from Arcane Blitz, and you need to use things like Purge on Arcane Blitz, on top of the fact that you need to maintain everyone's HPS, on top of the fact that you're probably also running Censure Talent, which is going to make you Chastise a stun. But in order to get that stun for every wave, you need to use Smites to reduce the cooldown of your Chastise. So you have a combination of heal everyone with your shitty heals, CC Purge, and use your global cooldowns on it, grip in Granny because she's wandering off to the end of the room, and cast enough Smites so you can actually get the CC for the next wave. On top of the fact that you have to eat every single fixate because you have no way of running away, and you feel relatively squishy. I don't want to go on a rant. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still a bit salty about the fact that Holy Priest challenge is so hard. I don't mind hard challenges. I actually enjoy these challenges that require like perfect type of gameplay. But what I don't enjoy is the fact that you're going to be spending like 90% more time on your Holy Priest versus your other healers. That is something that is relatively annoying. When you approach wave 4 on your Holy Priest in phase 1, you have to micromanage your Shackle, you have to manage your Chastise Stone, and you have to use Fear. Now, there is going to be some certain amount of luck happening here, because the NPCs have to pick the correct target, and sometimes it is assumed that if you shackle a member that the NPCs should drop aggro on it, but it's not always happening. And honestly, the Holy Priest phase 1 is not only perfect play, but it's also a bit of luck, which makes it really, really challenging. And after you manage to do your stage 1, you are kind of like exhausted and you're hoping everything else is going to be easier, and you're in for the surprise. So, stage 3 for Holy Priest is actually very doable. I don't think it's bad at all. I actually think Holy Priest is very, very manageable, because you have your Holy Fire, you have Shadow World Pain, you have Holy Nova to deal with a lot of different things. Divine Star is really, really strong in terms of the pure damage. So, I managed to do Holy Priest stage 3 without using drums, just purely focusing on the mobs. You have enough CC, and I felt stage 3 was a nice little vacation when I was doing it as a Holy Priest. Now you step into stage 5 and you're hoping that everything's going to be okay. And I honestly feel Holy Priest is the worst at stage 5. Druid is probably somewhere there, but not even close. Holy Priest felt so bad because of their pure healing. It's the only healer that I actually struggled with healing the NPCs. Not the souls that are arriving, but the NPCs that are fighting between each other. I had a really tough time. Sometimes Granny and other ones were going down to like 10% HP, because you have to have a really good order of cooldowns to manage the souls that are arriving. You have to make sure that Serenity is off cooldown, because Serenity is going to do all of your healing. Because Serenity is insane, and Sanctify is insane, but everything else is really, really bad, and you need to use your other filler abilities to get the cooldown down. On top of the fact you can use Divine Hymn, and Divine Hymn might topple people. It didn't in my case, but you can't just finish it off later on. And then you have to use Apotheosis. And Apotheosis, you have to be making sure to optimize it. So you make sure that you have Sanctify and you can hit the 2 souls. You use Sanctify, you might use Serenity, then use Apotheosis. Then Apotheosis removes the cooldown of your Sanctify and Serenity, then you use your Sanctify Serenity again. And hopefully your other NPCs are not dead, because you're focusing on the souls. And I felt this was pretty annoying. So on top of the worst phase 1 or stage 1, you have one of the worst stage 5s. And then you get to the boss, and again, the same thing is happening. The lack of pure throughput that Holy Priest has is going to be really painful. I don't think Holy Priest damage is bad. I think it's actually very comparable to your Resto Druid, to your Resto Shaman, possibly Mistweaver. I think Mistweaver actually had lower base damage. The problem is that as Holy Priest, you're spending most of your GCDs in the final stage on healing. You're trying to keep up all of your NPCs healthy, and this is why it felt really hard for me to use abilities like you can maintain Shadow Wall Pain, you can maintain Holy Fire, but I basically ran out of room because I was focusing all my GCDs on healing. I barely had any time to squeeze in any damage, and I died. But Holy Priest does have Spirit of Redemption, so with Spirit of Redemption, maybe you're running Afterlife talent, I don't know, which is going to increase your Spirit of Redemption duration, and you're basically just healing NPCs, and you're hoping that the NPCs that are full HP are going to kill off the boss. And this is what happened to me, and it was an absolute nightmare. So to summarize the whole video, I think that Holy Paladin had a really good time throughout the whole encounter, the whole challenge. I didn't think they were the best in stage 1, but I felt that their pure base damage felt really strong. Almost to an extent, they should be doing the Discipline Priest challenge. Their damage was really high, and if you use your cooldowns properly, they have enough CC. They don't have, or they don't take extra damage from Arcane Blitz. Very, very good. I think Resto Druid is pretty difficult if you don't play a Resto Druid, because Resto Druid has so many different abilities. He has so many different keybinds, but if you're familiar with Resto Druid might actually be one of the easiest challenges, because the toolkit is absolutely insane. It's probably 1 or 2 more spells in terms of CC than all the other healers. So more keybinds, but more ways to optimize. And if you're new, you might find that daunting. I think Mistweaver, if you have the Mechagon Trinket, if you have the computational device, I think Mistweaver could actually be one of the easiest healers. I think the biggest issue with Mistweaver is their lack of base damage, but I think their pure throughput, their on-demand single target healing, their AoE healing is insane. So if you can squeeze out that extra damage for your, the last final stage, you're gonna have a really good time as Mistweaver. If you don't, you're probably gonna keep wiping on the final boss over and over and over again until you get into that touch of death range. Resto Shaman honestly could have been B tier, could have been A tier. I initially would place it B tier because I felt the stage 1 and the purge and the interrupt and the fact that you take more damage from Arcane Blitz is really, really annoying. But Blizzard did nerf it, so I'm assuming that the nerf is going to be impactful enough to bring it to bottom of A tier. That's basically my assumption. I haven't done it after the nerfs, so that's something to consider. And Holy Priest should not even be here. I think there is probably a very high likelihood, and I don't want to sound too negative towards Blizzard. They're doing their best and things like that, but there is going to be a nerf for Holy Priest. There is 100% going to be a nerf for Holy Priest. There's no way they're gonna let Holy Priest go the way that is. My suggestions for Holy Priest: remove the Arcane Blitz mechanic that it deals extra damage for Holy Priest. I know Holy Priest has Purge, it's able to remove the magic buffs and things like that, but it's too much. You either have to remove that mechanic and make it a lot easier, like in line to your Holy Paladin, Resto Druid, Mistweaver, Monk, or you have to increase Holy Priest healing by like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50% or something. Because the class is literally based around the fact that you have Flash Concentration. And when you can't use Flash Concentration, Holy Priest, it just feels so bad. Guys, let me know how I feel about this ranking. Should I have placed Resto Shaman in B tier? Should it still stay in A tier? Which healer do you feel is the easiest? In my honest opinion, if you're trying to get a Priest transmog, go with Discipline Priest or go with Shadow Priest. Don't waste your time, because I spent like 4+ hours on trying to get the Holy Priest done, while every other healer took me 1 or 2 tries. Let me know if you like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next.